Before we begin, tell me in the comments, if risking your life could save someone you hated, would you still do it? And if you enjoy emotional royal dramas filled with secrets, betrayal, and impossible choices, subscribe now. Because this story only gets darker from here. The rain that night sounded like war, not the distant kind spoken about by old men beside fireplaces, not the glorious kind painted into royal portraits. Real war, cold, violent, merciless. The kind that turned roads into rivers and made grown men pray under their breath. Lady Eveline Marrow pulled her cloak tighter around herself as the carriage wheel sank deeper into the mud. "Wonderful," her driver muttered. Lightning split across the sky. The horses screamed. Eveline closed her eyes for a moment. 3 hours earlier, she had still been inside Blackthorn Manor, listening to her stepfather calmly arrange her future like a business transaction.
"You'll marry Lord Harwin by winter,"
he had said without even looking at her. His debts disappear. Ours disappear. Everyone wins. Everyone except her. Lord Harwin was nearly 60, cruel, widowed twice, rumored to lock servants in the cellar when angry. But none of that mattered. Not to men who traded daughters for survival. So Eveline had done the only reckless thing she had ever done in her quiet, obedient life. She ran. No jewels, no farewell, no destination. Only the clothes on her back and a small silver compass her mother once carried. The carriage jerked violently.
"We're stuck!"
the driver snapped. Eveline looked out into the darkness. Nothing but forest, rain, fog. Then came the sound. Hooves, fast, panicked. The driver froze. 4 riders burst through the trees, masked, armed bandits. "Out of the carriage!" one shouted. The driver immediately jumped down and ran, coward. Eveline barely had time to breathe before the carriage door was ripped open. One of the men grabbed her arm. "Well now," he laughed. "Looks like fortune finally smiled on us." His breath smelled like whiskey. Eveline fought instinctively, but another man climbed onto the wheel and pointed a pistol directly at her. Easy. Then suddenly, gunfire exploded somewhere in the trees. One of the bandits collapsed instantly. The others spun around. A black horse emerged through the rain. Its rider wore a dark military coat soaked by the storm. Broad shoulders, rigid posture, blood running down one hand. And despite the chaos, his voice came calm and sharp. "Step away from her." The remaining bandits laughed.
There's 3 of us."
The stranger reached for another pistol. There were 4 a moment ago. Everything happened too fast after that. Another shot. A horse screaming. Mud splashing. Steel flashing under lightning. Eveline stumbled backward against the carriage. The stranger fought like a man who had forgotten how to fear death. Not wild, precise, controlled, military. One bandit lunged toward Eveline, grabbing her by the throat. "Drop the weapon or she dies." The stranger froze. For the first time, she saw his face clearly. Young. Maybe 30. Dark hair soaked against his forehead. Eyes carrying the exhaustion of someone who had seen too much suffering too early in life. But there was something else in those eyes. Recognition. Not of her. Of the situation. As if he had watched innocent people die before and could not bear to watch it happen again. The bandit pulled the trigger. Eveline heard the shot before she understood what happened. The stranger moved instantly. He shoved her sideways. The bullet tore into his shoulder. He collapsed into the mud. The bandit smiled. Then Eveline did something that would later make an entire kingdom obsessed with her name. She picked up the fallen pistol and fired. The sound shook through the forest. The bandit stared at her in shock before collapsing beside the carriage wheel. Silence followed. Only rain, only thunder, only Eveline's shaking hands. The stranger looked up at her from the mud. "You've done that before," he said weakly. I haven't. You didn't hesitate, neither had he. For several seconds, neither spoke. Then Eveline saw the blood. Too much blood. His shoulder wasn't the only wound. There was another near his ribs. Older, already soaked through the coat. This man had been running long before he found her. We need shelter, she whispered. He tried standing, failed. Eveline caught him before he hit the ground again. And despite the freezing rain, despite the danger, despite every lesson noble women were taught about strange men, she stayed. Hours later, they reached an abandoned chapel hidden deep within the forest. Most of the roof had collapsed, but one room remained dry enough for a fire. Eveline wrapped his wound with torn fabric from her own dress. The stranger watched her carefully. You should have left me, he murmured. I nearly did. That was the sensible choice. I've had enough sensible choices for one lifetime. For the first time, the corner of his mouth almost smiled. Almost. She noticed then how exhausted he truly looked. Not merely injured, haunted. Like someone carrying years of grief alone. What's your name? She asked quietly. He hesitated. Adrian, not a full lie, but not the full truth either. Eveline sensed it immediately. Outside, thunder rolled across the hills. Adrian suddenly grabbed her wrist. Hard. Listen carefully, he said. His voice changed. No longer tired. Now urgent. If anyone comes here tonight, you never saw me. Eveline frowned. What are you talking about? They'll ask questions. Don't answer them. Who will? Before he could respond, the sound of horses echoed outside. Not one. Many. Torches glowed through the broken chapel windows. Men shouting. Military men. Eveline's heartbeat stopped when she heard the words clearly. Search everything! Another voice shouted through the storm. Find the Crown Prince before dawn. Eveline slowly turned toward the wounded stranger. Adrian closed his eyes. And in that single moment, she realized the man she had just taken a bullet for was not a soldier, not a traveler, not a stranger. He was the missing heir to the entire kingdom. And outside the chapel, hundreds of armed men were searching for him. The chapel doors burst open before sunrise. Torchlight flooded the broken stone walls. Soldiers stormed inside with weapons drawn. Eveline instinctively stepped in front of Adrian, not because she understood why, not because she trusted him completely, not because she trusted completely, but because somewhere between the rain, the blood, and the silence of the night, she had stopped seeing him as dangerous. A tall commander entered last. Silver insignia across his coat, sword still wet from the storm. The moment he saw Adrian alive, relief flashed across his face so quickly it almost disappeared. Then he dropped to one knee. Your Highness. Every soldier in the chapel immediately followed. Eveline felt the air leave her lungs. Crown Prince. Not rumor, not possibility. Reality. Adrian looked exhausted. Stand up, Marcus. The commander obeyed instantly. Then his eyes shifted toward Eveline. Sharp, assessing, dangerously intelligent. And who, Marcus asked carefully, is this? The room changed immediately. Not loudly, not visibly. But Eveline felt it, every soldier watching her differently now. Not as a frightened woman, as a problem. Adrian answered before she could. She saved my life. Marcus looked unconvinced. With respect, Your Highness, the attack was not random. We still don't know who can be trusted. Eveline stepped backward slowly. I should leave. No, Adrian said immediately. Too quickly. Even he seemed surprised by it. Marcus noticed too. Outside, dawn slowly pushed pale light across the forest. For the first time, Eveline could properly see the prince. The storm had hidden how severe his injuries truly were. His shoulder wound was deep, but the wound near his ribs worried her more. It looked older, deliberately hidden, like someone had already tried killing him days before. Marcus approached carefully. "We need to return to the capital immediately." Adrian's jaw tightened. "No." The commander stared at him. "Your Highness, if I return now, whoever arranged the ambush simply tries again." Marcus lowered his voice. "The king believes this was foreign involvement." "It wasn't." That answer came too fast. Too certain. Eveline noticed, and apparently Marcus did too. Sigh. The commander's expression darkened. "You suspect someone inside the palace." Silence confirmed it. The fire crackled softly between them. Outside, soldiers searched the surrounding woods. Then Marcus asked the question that changed everything. "Did she hear anything?" The room went still. Eveline suddenly understood what survival felt like. Not fear, calculation. One wrong answer could erase her from the earth. Adrian looked directly at her. For a moment, neither spoke. Then he said quietly, "No." A lie. A dangerous one, because she had heard something during the attack. One of the masked men had shouted, "Finish it before his brother finds out." Brother. Not enemy kingdom. Not rebels. Family. Someone inside the royal bloodline wanted the crown prince dead. Marcus exhaled slowly. Then he turned toward the soldiers. No one speaks of the woman. One soldier frowned. "But, sir, witnesses saw her near the eastern road." Then they saw nothing. The soldier immediately straightened. "Yes, Commander." Eveline felt confusion twist inside her. Why protect her? Marcus seemed to read her thoughts. "The fewer people who know about you, the longer you stay alive." Not comforting. Not remotely. Hours later, the royal convoy prepared to leave. Adrian struggled mounting his horse. The blood loss was catching up to him. Without thinking, Eveline moved beside him. "You need stitches. I need a kingdom that isn't collapsing. You'll die before fixing either." A faint smile touched his face again. Small, brief, real. And for one dangerous second, he looked less like a prince and more like a man carrying too much weight alone. Marcus approached. "There's a village 2 miles east. You can disappear there before nightfall." Eveline nodded slowly. This was the smart ending. Walk away. Forget the prince. Forget the conspiracy. Forget the strange ache already forming in her chest. But Adrian suddenly removed something from his coat. A silver signet ring, royal crest, engraved into black stone. He held it toward her. "If you're ever in danger, show this only to someone wearing the King's Guard colors." Marcus looked alarmed. "Your Highness, she saved my life. That ring identifies direct royal authority." "I know what it identifies." Eveline stared at the ring without touching it. "If someone sees me with that, they'll help you." "No," she whispered. "They'll hunt me." For the first time, Adrian had no answer. Because she was right. By noon, the kingdom already knew. Not the full truth. But enough. The crown prince had survived an assassination attempt. And somewhere in the storm, a mysterious woman had saved him. By evening, rumors spread through taverns, markets, and noble houses alike. Some called her a spy. Others claimed she was Adrian's secret lover. One ridiculous story insisted she took 3 bullets without dying. But the most dangerous rumor came from the palace itself. The king wanted to find her. Immediately. And when kings searched for ordinary women, history rarely ended kindly. 3 days later, Eveline reached the coastal town of Dunmere. Cold winds crashed against the harbor cliffs. Fishing boats rocked violently beneath gray skies. It should have felt safe. Far from the palace, far from the prince, far from whatever war was quietly growing inside the royal family. Instead, she felt watched. Everywhere, at the inn that night, 2 merchants discussed the reward openly. 1,000 sovereigns, the older man whispered. For a woman? They say she saved the crown prince himself. That much money buys loyalty. No, the other muttered darkly. That much money buys betrayal. Eveline lowered her head further beneath her hood. Then the tavern door opened. The entire room fell silent. 3 royal guards entered. Mud-covered boots, travel cloaks, searching eyes. One nailed a parchment onto the wall. Eveline's blood froze. A sketch.
Right now, Eveline has no idea the man she saved is being hunted by his own blood. And the worst part? The kingdom searching for her may not want to reward her. They may want to silence her forever. If this story has you hooked already, subscribe, because everything changes after tonight.
Not detailed, but recognizable enough. Her. Wanted for questioning by order of the crown. The room exploded into whispers. Eveline slowly stood, carefully, quietly, too quietly. One of the guards noticed immediately. Their eyes met. Recognition flashed. Eveline turned instantly and ran. The tavern erupted behind her. Stop her! Stop her! She burst into the rain-soaked streets as thunder rolled over the harbor. People shouted, doors slammed open, boots pounded behind her. Eveline shoved through crowded space, heart hammering violently against her ribs. She nearly slipped on the wet stone steps near the docks. Then suddenly, a hand grabbed her arm. She gasped violently, but the figure pulled her into darkness before the guards passed. The stranger quickly covered her mouth. Male, low, controlled, familiar. Eveline's eyes widened. Adrian stood in the shadows beside her. Alive, still wounded, still reckless enough to come himself. Rain dripped from his dark coat as distant guards continued searching nearby streets. Eveline stared at him in disbelief. You followed me? I was trying not to. No, he said softly. His eyes held hers, heavy, honest, dangerously sincere. My explanation, he whispered, is that 3 men inside the palace are trying to kill me, and you're the only witness they failed to silence. Thunder shook the harbor. Somewhere nearby, guards continued shouting her description, but neither moved. Because for the first time, they both understood the truth. This was no longer about survival. It was about trust. And trust inside kingdoms built on secrets could become the deadliest weapon of all. The rain finally stopped before dawn. But the kingdom did not become quieter. It became dangerous. Eveline sat inside the abandoned watchtower, overlooking Dunmere Harbor, while Adrian stood near the narrow window, watching royal guards sweep through the streets below. Neither had slept. The truth had changed everything. Someone inside the royal family wanted the Crown Prince dead. And now, the only witness was a woman the kingdom had already begun hunting. Adrian finally spoke. My brother knows. Eveline looked up immediately. The prince? No, the king's second son. His voice hardened. Lucien. Even the name felt colder somehow. Eveline had heard stories about Prince Lucien before. Everyone had. Brilliant speaker. Beloved by nobles. Merciless beneath the charm. The kind of man who smiled while ruining lives. You think he ordered the attack? I think. Adrian said quietly. Lucien has spent years preparing for the possibility that I might become king. The fire crackled softly between them. Outside, harbor bells echoed through the fog. Eveline studied Adrian carefully. The exhaustion in his face had deepened overnight. Not merely from injuries, from betrayal. People survived enemies. Family wounds lasted longer. Why not tell the king? She asked. A bitter laugh escaped him. Because half the court already supports Lucien. That explained the silence, the secrecy, the fear inside the palace itself. This wasn't merely an assassination attempt. It was the beginning of a succession war. Then footsteps suddenly echoed below the tower stairs. Adrian reached for his pistol instantly. Marcus appeared moments later, breathing heavily. We have a problem. Only one, Adrian muttered. Marcus ignored it. The palace released her identity. Eveline froze. No. Marcus handed her a folded parchment. She opened it slowly and felt her blood turn cold. Lady Eveline Marrow, wanted for treason against the crown. Underneath the accusation sat the royal seal itself. This is insane, Eveline whispered. Marcus looked grim. Lucien controls the royal council while the king remains ill. He's turning the kingdom against both of you. Adrian's expression darkened dangerously. He moved faster than I expected. There's more. Marcus hesitated. The council claims you kidnapped the crown prince after the attack. Eveline stared in disbelief. What? It's clever, Marcus admitted bitterly. If Adrian publicly defends you, they accuse him of treason beside you. If he stays silent, they execute you alone. Silence swallowed the tower. This was no longer politics. It was entrapment. Adrian suddenly looked toward Marcus. How many guards remain loyal? Not enough for open war. The answer hung heavily in the room. Not enough. Outside, bells rang again. This time closer. Search parties. Adrian turned toward Eveline. You need to leave the kingdom. She stared at him. No, you don't understand what's coming. No, she said quietly. You don't. He frowned. Eveline stepped closer. I've spent my entire life obeying powerful men while they decided what my future should be. I ran because I was tired of surviving other people's decisions. Her voice trembled slightly, but not from fear. You don't get to save me by abandoning me. For several seconds, Adrian said nothing. Then something shifted in his expression. Not royal authority, not command, respect, real respect. Marcus suddenly interrupted. There may still be one way. Both turned toward him. The king. Adrian's face hardened immediately. He's dying. Not yet. Marcus lowered his voice carefully. Lucien has restricted who can see him. But if the king hears the truth directly before the council gathers tomorrow, he could stop this. Eveline finished. Marcus nodded. But reaching the palace unnoticed is nearly impossible now. Thousands of lights flickered across the sleeping kingdom, a kingdom already preparing to betray him. Then slowly, he smiled. Not warmly, strategically. That depends, he murmured, on whether Lucien still believes we're running. By nightfall, the royal palace overflowed with guards. Nobles filled the grand halls, whispering rumors beneath glittering chandeliers. Some claimed Adrian chandeliers. Some claimed Adrian was already dead. Others insisted he planned rebellion. Fear spread faster than truth ever could. Inside the throne chamber, Prince Lucien stood before the royal council dressed entirely in black military silk. Elegant. Controlled, perfectly composed. Exactly the kind of man kingdoms trusted too easily. The Crown Prince has endangered national stability, Lucien declared calmly. His emotional attachment to an unidentified woman has compromised royal security. Several council members nodded immediately. Cowards. Then the great chamber doors exploded open. Gasps echoed everywhere. Adrian walked inside beside Eveline, alive, bleeding slightly, unafraid. The entire room froze. Lucien's expression cracked for the first time all night, only briefly, but enough. Well, Adrian said coldly, this seems dramatic. Chaos erupted instantly, council members shouting, guards reaching for weapons, nobles stumbling backward. Lucien recovered quickly. You should not be here. Interesting, Adrian replied. Most brothers usually say, I'm glad you survived. The chamber went dead silent. Lucien's eyes darkened. Careful. Dangerous. You accuse me publicly? No, Adrian said. Then he stepped aside, and Eveline walked forward. The entire chamber watched her, the hunted woman, the kingdom's supposed traitor. Her knees nearly weakened beneath the pressure of hundreds of staring eyes. But she remembered the storm, the gunshot, the man who stepped in front of death for someone he didn't know. And suddenly fear mattered less. Eveline raised her voice clearly. The attackers mentioned Prince Lucien before they tried killing the Crown Prince. The room erupted again. Lucien laughed softly. A frightened woman repeating nonsense. Then he looked directly at her, and for the first time, his mask slipped. Pure hatred. You should have disappeared when you had the chance. Adrian moved instantly. So it was you. Lucien realized too late what he had done. Council members stared at him in shock. Marcus stepped forward sharply. You just confessed before the Royal Council. Guards immediately shifted uneasily. Loyalty cheating in real time. Lucien's calm finally shattered. You think this changes anything? He snapped. The kingdom needs strength, not a weak prince distracted by some nameless woman. Then came the voice no one expected. Enough. Old, weak, but still powerful enough to silence an empire. The king stood at the chamber entrance supported by 2 attendants, pale, frail, dying. Yet every person in the room immediately bowed. Even Lucien. The king's eyes moved slowly toward Adrian. Then Eveline. Then finally his second son. I gave you both the same crown to protect, he said quietly. Disappointment hit harder than rage ever could. Lucien then lowered his head, but not from shame, from defeat. The king looked toward the guards. Remove Prince Lucien from succession until formal judgment. Several guards hesitated, then obeyed. Lucien stared at Adrian one final time while soldiers seized his arms. This kingdom will destroy you too, he whispered bitterly. Then he was gone. Silence followed, heavy, unbelieving. The king turned toward Eveline slowly. You saved my son. Eveline swallowed nervously. I only did what anyone would have done. The old king smiled faintly. No, he said softly. Most people save themselves. And perhaps that was the real reason the kingdom became obsessed with her afterward. Not because she was noble, not because she was powerful. Weeks later, the kingdom celebrated Adrian publicly for the first time since the attack. Crowds filled the capital streets. Bells rang across every district. Children threw flowers beneath the royal carriage. And beside the future king sat the woman who was once hunted as a traitor. Eveline looked out across the cheering crowds in disbelief. You still have time to run, Adrian murmured beside her. She smiled slightly. I think I'm done running. For the first time since the storm, he truly smiled back. Not as crown prince, not as survivor, just as the man who once took a bullet for a stranger, before discovering she would become the most important person in his life. Do you think Eveline and Adrian would survive as king and queen, or would the kingdom eventually turn against them again?
She took a bullet for a stranger and accidentally changed an entire kingdom forever. But tell me honestly, do you think love can survive inside a palace built on betrayal? Comment your answer below and subscribe now for the next royal drama.